Hi everybody, this is Angie from Tourangie.com, and we have basically left Lewisburg. There's still some beautiful houses here with Lewisburg, and we're heading towards White Sulphur Springs. This video is going to be a little bit longer than normal, but I am shutting it off before I get to the Greenbrier because yes, my video after this will be the Greenbrier. But I wanted to talk to you all today about Caldwell and Caldwell. There's a lot of historical significance to these areas. Even though there's maybe just 400 people that live here in these little towns, back in the 1800s, this was the way, this was the place to come through. Um, there was a tavern that was built basically at the bridge at the Elmhurst mansion. And we're going to be coming across it here shortly. Basically, the whole Elmhurst area, it's like 24 acres. It's going to be on the right, just past this Greenbrier River Bridge. So I'll point it out in the video, but you will not see it from the road. In fact, the boundary of it, the boundary to the west is the Greenbrier River. The boundary to the south is a creek. This road we're on now is the boundary to the north, and then the road at the intersection just up a ways is the other boundary. But it was, of course, a mansion with fields, agriculture. It was pretty flat considering, and of course, the front of the Greenbrier River right there was great for fishing. But there was a tavern built in 1824 on the Elmhurst farm, and it was built by Henry B. Hunter, and he was the son of Captain John Anderson. And John Anderson actually owned a mansion also, but his was on the other side of the river. I just figured I would go on and mention that. But this area, that place right there, was a stagecoach stop. Now, if you think about it, back in the 1820s, uh, people were moving west. Westward expansion, what was it? Manifest Destiny. People were going west, and they had to come through West Virginia to head west. So that was a great stagecoach stop, an inn, a tavern. It was a good place for people to rest on their little wagon road. Um, there was a toll bridge that was set up, and the bridge was erected in 1821. So when the tavern came into play in 1824, that just made it even better. But there was also a grist mill in the area. Then of course, other people started setting up residences in the area. Now, with that being said, all of that changed uh, the outlook of this area because eventually the roads started to improve. Trains started moving people west, and, well, the bridges weren't as necessary. This route was not as necessary for a stagecoach stop. So that was the ultimate demise of the Elmhurst area, the Elmhurst mansion and everything, the tavern and all of that. Okay, as you can see right now, we're on the bridge over the Greenbrier River. So just up ahead, over on the right. Basically, as soon as we plop over the bridge, here we are, right there, over on the right. That is the Elmhurst area. Um, It's fairly flat, as you can tell in this area. And see, right here is the junction where the road cuts right. That's the east, uh, I guess, the east side boundary of that area. But we're in Caldwell. And there's a historical marker over there. And the Caldwells owned the place for a long time. They actually did have slaves. And that's something that people don't realize with West Virginia. Even though West Virginia uh, basically separated itself from Virginia when Virginia seceded the Union, right before the Civil War started, which was, the cause of the Civil War was these states were seceding from the Union, and it was due to the slavery. There was slavery in West Virginia, but it wasn't the amount of slavery that was on, let's say, the far eastern part of the state of Virginia. West Virginia wasn't a state then. So farms like this, this is the mountain area. they were smaller farms. They weren't these large plantations of the East. So the Elmhurst um, farm back there only had 10 slaves. Now, I'm not saying, only had, ooh, but they did only have 10 slaves. So that's something that people don't realize. They think that West Virginia had no slaves at all and separated. No, West Virginia separated, yes, because they were not as, some of the counties or some of the areas were not as fond of slavery and were against it and different things, but it did not mean that there wasn't any slaves whatsoever. It's the economic differences between the eastern part of Virginia and this section that caused basically the divide because, you know, farming over here is a lot different than the east coast of Virginia. So that's why secession happened. And of course, slavery, was ended here with that too. But that was why West Virginia seceded, a little bit because of slavery, but because of political and economic differences between the mountainous area and then the plantation area over on the East Coast. So, as you can tell, traffic has really slowed down. There is a tractor up ahead, and yes, I'm driving super slow through Caldwell now. Eventually, I don't know, somewhere around minute number 10, I end up having to pull off and change my camera setup. And so I get away from the traffic for a little bit. You're going to notice the difference in videos here shortly, probably around minute 10 or 11. But yes, I'm driving super slow because we're stuck in behind this traffic. You look up ahead, though, you can see a bridge up above us coming up. That's Interstate 64. So this route rides right along the interstate. This is 60, and it's called the Midland Trail. Route 60, basically on the west end, starts at Cattlesburg, Kentucky. And I think it's Cattlesburg. Yeah, it's Cattlesburg, Kentucky is where it starts. And it goes, basically, it follows Route 64, or really close to Route 64 all the way, like Huntington, Barbersville, Charleston, uh, back through here, through Lewisburg, Sand Black Church area, White Sulphur Springs. But it ends in Virginia, just after the state line, honestly, not too far away. It is at Calgahan, Virginia. So it's not far. Honestly, right here, we're less than, probably less than 45 minutes from where it would end. I really haven't ever been to Calgahan, so I don't know. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Calgahan. Anyway, I've never even heard of that before, so maybe I'll put that in a stop. Go to Calgahan sometime. Calgahan, Virginia. Okay. Anyway, back to talking about Route 60. It is, like I mentioned, it was part of the Midland Trail and the National Scenic Byway. The Midland Trail was also called the Roosevelt Midland Trail, and it was a national auto trail that basically went from Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles, California. And it was published in a guide in 1916. I thought that was pretty neat. The first road sign in 1913, it was one of the first marking the transcontinental auto trails in America. So I thought that was really neat that this route is one of the first real roads, and it was part of the trail that goes from Washington, D.C. to California. I think it's really neat for the roads. Anyway, so now we're going to talk about the reason Caldwell is called Caldwell. And that's because of James Robinson Caldwell. He was born in 1820, actually in Augusta County, Virginia. And he died in 1904. But his wife was Isabel Abney North, and she was born in 1824 and died in 1897. But she actually went to the Lewisburg Academy for school. So I thought that was pretty neat. But let's talk about them because that is why Caldwell is called Caldwell. It's because of James Robinson Caldwell. The wife, Isabel, and James were given the house by Isabel's father. They basically lived there all their life. In fact, after Isabel's father died, Isabel's mother did move in there, but James Caldwell and Isabel had 6 children, and it was a hot spot during the Civil War. The Confederate soldiers actually burned the bridge there at that crossed the Greenbrier River, and that affected the Caldwells a good bit, being able to get to Lewisburg because of the burning of that bridge. Uh, James never did join the Confederate Army, or he didn't even join the Union side either, but they did have slaves, and I believe I mentioned that earlier that there were 10 slaves. I did see a website, and it was called The History of Caldwell, and Google it, look it up. It's pretty awesome. I've got some of the information from there and then several other different places. But uh, they talk about the slaves, and they have many of the slaves' names listed. But there was one in particular, her name was Laura, and they know the most about her. She ended up staying with the family after the emancipation, after the Civil War, and she stayed on as the caretaker to the kids, and basically as a maid to Isabella until, well, I think up until her death, maybe. But Laura was her name. She did get married. Her husband worked with the railroad, and in fact, Laura's grandson was involved in a proclamation, or not really a proclamation, but a letter written to the Ronceverte area about how African Americans were treated in the Ronceverte area. So it was a letter to the mayor helping, talking about the local abuses to the African Americans. So I think that's pretty neat little bits of interesting information that we found out. And thank goodness that this website has it. They have so much info about the some of the children, even some of the Caldwell's children. In fact, 3 of those children died of diphtheria back at the time of the Civil War, too. 3 died in a matter of 2 weeks, so that's awful. But anyway, go look it up. History of Caldwell, West Virginia. It talks about the Greenbrier River Inn, where Martin Van Buren stayed, Robert E. Lee stayed, and then it talks about the postmaster of Caldwell, all kinds of different information. So it's a pretty neat little website to check out. So I'm gonna put the link to it in my description for you all. But we are basically getting close. You can tell now. Look how well manicured the yard, or the side of the road is. You know, the grass is cut perfectly to the trees. This is the Greenbrier. Um, the stables are up ahead. The golf course is up ahead. We've maybe passed a little bit of it already, but the entrance to the Greenbrier is going to be on the left. So I'm just going to go on and shut off the video now and pick up where we've left off here. And you will see the Greenbrier in the next video. This is Angie from Tourangie.com. Come to my website, read my blogs, make appointments so I can help you plan your next travel adventure. Oh, look over to the left. Did you see that? That was part of the golf course. Okay, talk to you all later.